This week's listener story was sent to my voicemail from a good buddy of mine, Johnny Mopar. So let's hear Johnny's story.
Hey, Chris. What's going on, man? This is Johnny Mopar. Anyway, I thought I'd give you a story about a 1968 Dodge Charger. This car I bought back when I was about 16 years old. It was about 1989. I was a junior in high school. Anyways, riding the school bus to school one day, and I happened to be sitting on the left side of the bus looking out. I had a window seat, and I'm looking out, into the distance. Anyway, over a knoll, pretty far away, I could see this roof line of a car. And it had a pretty wide C-pillar, so I thought, man, that could be a Charger. Now, I've been up and down this road plenty of times with my parents, and from the low street level, you couldn't see this car. It was completely hidden by this small hill. I only thought because I was on the school bus and I happened to be looking that particular direction. Anyway, so from the school bus, I couldn't even see the doors, the fender, or the quarter panels. I could only see the roof. So on the way to school and all day at school, all I can do is think about this car. And I'm like, man, I hope it's a Charger. I thought it could be a Chevelle, early Chevelle. But, I'm just praying that it's a freaking Charger. So longest day ever. Get home from school finally. I'm getting off the bus and I'm walking home with a purpose, which was shit. I think it was about at least a quarter-mile walk to get to home, I get home, jump on a dirt bike, haul ass over to this house, and look around the side, and I see, sure enough, it's a Charger, 68. I'm like, hell yeah. I am so excited at this point. I knock on the door, and no answer. So, anyways, I go home disappointed, doing homework and all that. It's kind of late. I couldn't get back out there. So, day 2, get on the bus, get on the left side of the bus, get a window seat. Sure enough, see the Charger again, as if it was going to go away. Anyways, get home from school that day, walk home with a purpose, get on the dirt bike, haul ass over to this house, knock on the door. This time, the door opens, and it's this big dude. This dude was huge. Now I was 16, so he probably wasn't this tall, but I could have swore he was like 7 feet tall. This guy was a big dude, and he had a mean look on his face, like, who the F are you, and what the F are you doing here? And so I go, hey, I was wondering if you wanted to sell that car in the backyard. He invited me in. He asked how much I would give him for the car. I said, can I look at it first? And he said, sure. So we got in the backyard. It's pretty beat up. The grill's knocked out of it. Front bumper's bent. Hood got folded back on it. The left rear tire is like buried in the ground. And I'm like, man, it's pretty rough. And he goes, yeah, it's my brother-in-law's car. About 5 years ago, he got into trouble and he had to leave town. He said he drank a lot and he hit mailboxes, fences, drove the car into a ditch. So sounds like he did a lot of drinking and driving. I assume he had a warrant probably out for his arrest, which is why he had to get out of town. Anyway, this was like 5 years before I was knocking on the door. So obviously the guy never came back for his car or to pay them back for the plane ticket. So anyways, I go, well, would you take $50 for it? And he goes, make it 100. And I said, all right, cool. So I haul ass home, tell my dad, I need to borrow $100. He's like, why? And I'm like, I just bought a Charger for $100. And he goes, what? Oh, I'm going to go look at it first. And I go, Dad, I don't care what you say. I'm buying this car no matter what. So I said, I'll work it off. I'll do whatever, around the yard. So he gives me the $100. That weekend, I borrowed my dad's van, ran a car dolly, and had my buddy come and help me. The freaking dirt, because this was summertime, and the dirt was like concrete where the wheel was buried into the ground. So we had a hell of a time digging this thing out. And then the wheel was locked. It just wouldn't rotate at all. So we put the dolly under the back of the car. My buddy jumped into the car and was steering it backwards while I was pulling it with my dad's Dodge van. Anyways, it was like a 2-mile drive down dirt roads and stuff. It was pretty hectic, but we made it, no problem. That weekend, threw a battery in it, threw some gas in it, threw gas into the carb, fired up, and just sat there and purred like a kitten. It's like awesome. So stoked. My dad helped me. We took a water hose to the left rear drum and just started, trying to get all the mud out of the wheel or out of the brake assembly. The drum was pretty rusted to the axle. We were prying on that thing like crazy. We finally got it off, but we bent the drum, so I had to replace it. And then did a brake job on the car. And I was pretty dumb back then. So I decided I'm going to drive the car to school. I drive it to school. I was taking an auto body class, so we got to park in the auto body section. And it was pretty sketchy. I didn't know what I was doing when I did brakes on it. And the shoes were basically rubbing on the drums, overheating. I got brake fade. I had smoke coming from the wheels, and it stunk to high heaven. But I made it to school barely. And then about second period or so, I'm walking and just so happened to see my dad's van rolling around the school. I'm like, what the f***? So, sorry for the F-bomb there. So anyways, he gets to my car. He's throwing a chain underneath it to drag it home. I come over there, and boy, was he pissed. Anyway, I skipped the rest of school, and he towed me home. And, he ripped me a new one. So I had to fix the brakes. I had to get insurance. I had to register the car. Registration wasn't required. I'm sorry, insurance wasn't required back in those days. And anyway, I took care of all that stuff, and then I drove the car for a while until the motor leaked like a stuck pig. So one day it just leaked too much oil, and I wasn't paying attention, and little 318 just gave up the ghost. So anyways, I still have the car to this day. Love it. And it's just waiting for its turn to get restored. So hopefully someday soon. All right, man. That's the end of the story. Wait.
Hey, Johnny, thanks for sending in your story. Wow. A 68 Charger found at 16 years old. And the only reason it was even found was because Johnny was paying attention while riding the bus. That's true Mopar hunting. You're looking out the window and you spot what you know is a classic car, but you don't know exactly what classic car. You have some suspicions, is it a Charger? It could be an early Chevelle. But Johnny lucked out this time around, and it was a 68 Charger. How awesome is that? He decides to approach the seller, which is always kind of sketchy depending on the area that you're going to and whatnot. So it's awesome that he went and approached the seller, and on the second try, the seller opens the door, invites him in, and he gets the story on the car, goes and looks at it, makes a $50 offer, and the seller takes $100. Now, Johnny, in today's world, that would be considered a low ball. But hey, what do I say? Better to have a low ball than no balls. Turns out the car wasn't even the seller's. It was the brother of the seller who, was on the lam for whatever reason. Sounds like, he liked to sit back on grandpa's old cough medicine, you know what I'm saying? And get a little reckless behind the wheel. So that's pretty funny, but obviously not safe at all. But hey, if he didn't do that, you probably wouldn't have that Charger for $100. So, at least hopefully no one was hurt. I like that when the guy said he'd take $100, you went home and told your dad, look, I'm getting this car no matter what you say, but hey, hook it up with some money, Pops. I thought that was awesome, Johnny. Very cool that you got the car running immediately. And it's really funny because I probably would have done the same thing. I would have drove it to school too, illegally. Screw safety. You know what I mean? I thought it was pretty funny that you botched the brake job and drove it to school anyway. But hey, you got to learn one way or another. So you learned something. That's good. You still have the car. That is the most important part of this whole thing. There's so many people out there. And Johnny, I know that you have cars that you wish you'd never gotten rid of. And actually, speaking of, I'm bringing Johnny onto the show because he's got a story about a car, another Charger, coincidentally, that ended up making some waves in the car enthusiast community. But we'll get to that on another show. Let's just say that his car is now infamous, even though it's not in his hands. Anyways, it's awesome that you still have your car. Don't sell it. I don't even think I have to say that at this point, Johnny. I don't think you'll ever sell that car. I think it's awesome that you still got it. And I can't wait to see what you do with that Charger. You're one of the few people that can say they still have their first Mopar. I'm pretty sure this is your first Mopar. Correct me if I'm wrong, Johnny, but a 68 Charger is your first Mopar and you paid $100 for it. That's a win in my book. So Johnny, thank you for sending in your story. A 68 Charger for $100, that's a win in my book, especially at 16. I don't even know what I would do at 16 if I had a 68 Charger. My life would be completely different right now, I tell you that. But awesome story, Johnny. I can't wait to get you on the show. We're going to talk Mopars. It's going to be a blast. But thank you for sending in your story. And ladies and gentlemen, that's how you send in a story. Now, I'll tell you right now that Johnny had to leave 3 voicemails because we learned that the voicemail only allows you to record for 3 minutes. So Johnny had 3 different calls, 3 different messages, and I was able to splice it together so it sounded good. And, you know, Johnny's a great storyteller. I love the stories. So if you want to send in your story, if you call 209-28-MOPAR and you leave me a voice message, just know that you have 3 minutes. But if you go longer, you're going to get cut off. That's okay. You can call back and continue the story, and I will splice it together. So it doesn't matter how many times you call. You know, if you want to leave 10 messages and we'll get a half an hour of story on there, that's fine. We'll figure it out. So Johnny, congratulations. You're the second person to leave a voicemail, and I love stories like this. I always think the stories are better coming from you guys. Now, don't get me wrong. I love telling the stories, but there's just something more authentic when it comes from you. So I encourage all of you out there that are thinking about emailing me your stories, leave me a message instead. Get yourself heard on the show. It's a lot funner that way for everybody involved. So take that into consideration if you want to tell your story. And one more thing, you'll also notice that Johnny was the first person to let an F-bomb slip on the show. That's okay. I can edit that. So feel free to speak free. Just do me a favor and try not to curse because this is a family show. I know there's some kids listening, and, you know, we want to set a good example for the young ones, okay? That was Listener Stories.